Okay, afternoon everyone. I'll just give you a brief 10-minute overview of the Berlanga Group, where we've come from, what we're focusing on now. So, background of the group is that we're upstream oil and gas from Kazakhstan. We sold a number of oil fields in 2009 at the sort of peak of the market. That put a lot of capital onto the balance sheet. We then developed a large block in eastern Kazakhstan through our subsidiary called TBM. You can see May 2013, we now export gas from Kazakhstan to China through the only privately owned pipeline between China and Kazakhstan. Took 3 years to negotiate because it was government to government, but only 3 months to actually construct. We then wanted to diversify out of Central Asia, so we started looking at Southeast Asia. And when Myanmar announced bidding rounds in 2013, we participated, first of all, in the onshore bidding round and got a block called MOGE 4 and an offshore block called M8. And M8, we will drill the first well in March 2020. 2015, we purchased some producing assets in Thailand, 20% stake from Carnarvon. So just in terms of the team, Shingiz is main shareholder and CEO of the group. Hans is our technical director, 30 years with Shell. Myself on the business side, and we have a large G&G team based in Myanmar, and we relocated the head office to Singapore 18 months ago. So we restructured the Southeast Asian assets under Berlanga International Pte Limited, where the head office is now, where I've just come from. And under that, we have the Thai producing assets and the 2 onshore blocks in Myanmar. MOGE 4 in Myanmar, some of you may know or may not know, it's relatively new, sort of back on the scene. Onshore traditionally has been mainly oil, although there is gas there, and MOGE 4 looks to be gas prone. But there are smaller amounts, but it's relatively cheap to develop. I won't go into the seismic. We've done 2D seismic onshore, we've done 3D seismic offshore. Both look very prospective. There's Gaffney Klein reports on both blocks. PSC terms in Myanmar are, by Southeast Asian standards, reasonably attractive. You get a 5-year tax holiday, which is one of the big pluses. They're not as attractive as some parts of the world, but reasonable, I would say. Just timeline and work plan. So end of 2020 is when we'll look to drill 2 wells onshore, and March 2020 we'll drill first well offshore Myanmar. In terms of Myanmar itself, the big, if I can say, historical discoveries are very much offshore. You'll see a map of offshore Myanmar there. Many of the large international players have been active for quite a long time. Total has been there for 20 years, PTTEP from Thailand, 20 years. There are 4 existing gas fields offshore with pipelines taking gas into Myanmar. You can see the red lines into Myanmar itself and into Thailand and into China. That was one of the big attractions for us going into particularly offshore existing infrastructure. So assuming we make a reasonable discovery, and the M8 block was one of the most bid for blocks in the last bidding round. There's existing infrastructure. Though the existing 4 gas fields, particularly Yadana and Zartika, they've been in production over 20 years now. They've all plateaued and are starting to decline, so there's good ullage in the existing pipeline structure. We're about 110 kilometers away from the pipeline at Yadana and about 160 k's away from Zartika. The block itself, M8, it's a large block, so it's nearly 11,000 square kilometers, adjacent to Yadana and Zartika, run by Total and PTTEP. Myanmar, I'd say historically, has very much been the backyard of PTTEP, who is involved in a very heavy drilling campaign in the block next to us, M9 at the moment. And we may or may not, in terms of farm out to one of the players there. We'll see as the process goes on. First well, we're targeting 2.4 TCF of gas. By Myanmar standards, that's large. There's another maybe 15 good prospects in the block. We're just concentrating at the moment on the shallow water part. Half of the block is shallow, half of the block is deep water. In terms of the drilling program, 2 wells, $30 million, it's about $15 million a well. All long lead items have been ordered, and we're just in the process of negotiating for the rig itself. Rig demand, I'd say, actually has become high in Southeast Asia, so we're in advanced discussions with 2 prospective suppliers. Economics have been well run on our side, and if there is interest from anyone or potential investor, we can share the Gaffney Klein report where they've done extensive modeling as well as our own internal analysis. Just in terms of production period, it's 20 plus 5 years, exploration 3 plus 2 plus 1, royalty to the Myanmar government is 12.5%, and 5-year tax holiday. Some of you may have followed Myanmar. I'd say it had quite a honeymoon period for a while after the elections. It's gone through a bit of a down period, particularly with problems politically up in northern Rakhine, but I think things have stabilized to a large extent now. Next elections are scheduled for November 2020, and on the ground itself, I would say it's very much business as normal. This is the first prospect we're looking to drill. It's the first big prospect there, just over 2 TCF. That's company estimate. Gaffney Klein is slightly lower than that, but still a very high prospectivity. And we'll try and do back-to-back well with SR, smaller prospect, but very high probability of success. Just in terms of competitor activity, I mentioned PTTEP. They're currently drilling in M9, 3-well program. First well looked as though there's a very good discovery there. If that is the case, PTTEP are looking to build a hub in M9, and so one option for us is to export the gas to the new PTTEP hub. It should be about 50 kilometers away, and then into Zatika pipeline. Total in M5 is also drilling 1 well near the M8 border, and in M6, 1 well. You'll see just in terms of the pipeline evacuation options, both with good ullage and both giving very good access to the markets, both in Thailand and into China itself. 4 existing producing gas fields, but all, as I say, now reach peak production and very much a big drive in Myanmar. Say in terms of Myanmar economy, earlier speakers were talking about the need for energy. Blackouts are, I would say, happen about 4 to 5 times a day in Myanmar still. Energy probably is without a doubt the #1 requirement to drive the economy forward. We intend to spud the first well in M8 in March 2020. I think we should be able to easily achieve that, subject to getting the right rig. It's interesting, over the last 6 months, 6 months ago, I'd say there's a large amount of rig availability in Southeast Asia. That has definitely been changing since we've been in discussion, which I think on the whole is a good thing. But there is still good availability of rigs in the region. I'm in Singapore, well, between Singapore and Yangon. I'm here today and tomorrow, so if anyone would like to follow up on any of the opportunities there, very happy to discuss in detail or on the wider picture itself. Thank you.